Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patrons, I'm going to do a shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Twad Wazzle, Jason Hornsby, Christoph Fournier, JMails24, Ian Memento, M Iron26, Endless, Goldie McKinnon, Retro Bill, More Books, Can a Bear, Fibre Oats, Bogey, Michael Kahn, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Will Brax, Mel B Styles, Troy Shuker, Harry Blade, Mobile Max 777, Neo the One, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, The Real Gabster, Abraham Mohammed, Skeptic936, Life is Short, Texas Mike, David Wayne Foster, and Dank. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. I'm going to do a bit of a chat on my own before I hand over to Discord and Google, because I'm going to update my computer, hopefully for the final time, over the last, I don't know, 3 or 4 months since I've been very generously donated this computer by one of the subscribers of the show, and indeed some of the upgrades I did to things like the monitor, the cabling, all of the other bits and bobs that went along with that were supported by GoFundMe, along with maintenance that was done to the computer that I paid for, and included some maintenance on the old computer, which I'll get to in a second, by a guy who I've now become friends with, which is a guy named Craig who works in a computer shop in my local town, who I'm actually going to see this week. So he's going to hopefully help me fit the new fan, which is the final thing I'm putting into this computer. So since I've had it, it's had horrible fans, and I've been changing them for second-hand ones. So I started off buying them on eBay just to see which ones I liked. Some of them got sent back, some of them got sold, and indeed the ones that got taken out of the computer got sold. So I could, over time, buy fans. That might seem like a stupid thing, but I haven't got £100 to just throw at fans, unfortunately. I'm just not that rich. Although it doesn't seem like that's a lot of money, it is to me. Anyway, so I was buying second-hand fans for maybe £18 or £20, and then selling the old ones for £6 or £7 or £8. And then that continued until I've now got to the point where I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 new fans, replacing 3 old fans, which have all been sold on eBay, and the final fan, which requires the motherboard to be taken off, so I can fit it behind the motherboard, which is something that is a 2-man job because of the design of the PC. I'm going to have help, so I'm going to ask my man who has ordered this fan, actually the only new one. That's strictly not true. I got a new one from Amazon that I got for Christmas, but other than that, this is a new fan that he's actually being paid for, and hopefully will not charge me a great deal of money to actually help me over maybe a course of half an hour to fit it in behind the motherboard, repaste the CPU, put it back together, and then that is hopefully it for 5 years, or however long this computer lasts. Because it'll then be to my satisfaction, as much as £100 of extra fans isn't probably something that most people would care about, but given it's, I don't know, 2 or 3 feet from the microphone, it's very important to me that it's silent, and this will be the final thing to achieve that. Anyway, the reason I'm telling you all this is because part of that process involved paying that computer shop, or Craig, to refurbish the old computer, and put a new hard drive in it, wipe off the old crap that was from me, put a new operating system on it, clean, and tidy it up, basically, put a new GPU in it. And all of that was done, and then the computer sat there ready to be sold, so I could have some money, because I need money, obviously. But in the process of doing that, the guy who contacted me about my microphone, which is a YouTuber called Bobby Zines, was streaming and constantly having issues while he was streaming. So I just got in touch and said, have this PC. So before Christmas, he received it, but then had a death in the family, which he's had to sort out, which is not very good. And he's only just in the last couple of days got around to actually getting this thing, or starting to think about getting this thing out and start to use it. But one of the things he asked me was, can I tell my audience that you've given me this computer? You know, and originally when I suggested it to him, he pointed out to me, and I was conscious of it anyway, that the reason I've got a computer to give him away is because people have supported me on GoFundMe, and a guy, Paul, has given me a new computer, which means I've got a computer to give him, not because I'm just super generous, but because other people have been generous enough to supply me with a computer and all the equipment to go around it via GoFundMe and one man's generosity. Massive, massive shout out to you, Paul. Thank you so much. Anyway, so I've told him, yeah, obviously, you know, if you want to thank me for giving you a computer, I could have just sold it. I didn't say that to him, but, you know, I'm giving it to you because I want to pay it forward. And I've got this equipment that would benefit you. Have it. Great if you shout me out. But I want to, in this particular section. Shout out the people who have been generous and put me in a position to pay it forward by supplying me with a new computer via GoFundMe, and indeed, as I keep saying, Paul, who just went out and bought the thing. So there we go. I just wanted to shout out my appreciation, given that it's been a constant tinkering tweak with this computer, and that's only possible for pennies on the dollar for the fans, my money, which ultimately also comes from you guys. So it's just an opportunity for me to shout you all out and say thank you very much. And check out Bobby Zines. Hopefully his streaming quality will go up, and hopefully that will influence how many people are actually watching him, if he's that much more slick with a new computer. And given his requirements, I'm hoping that the old computer, which unfortunately I had outgrown on this show, will be perfectly sufficient for his sort of one-man band reacting to videos, not necessarily having 3 servers all attached, all running with people in them at once. He doesn't need to do what I do. So the old computer, which was a very, very, very good computer, will now serve another YouTuber who's in the same country as me, and will hopefully get it out, like I say, be streaming on it in the not too distant future. So I thought I'd give you a little update about that, and probably the very last time I will talk about this computer, although I have been on and off nattering about it for the last 2 or 3 months, will be once that's completed by Craig. So once the new fan is in, if anybody's interested, because how long has this been now? 7 minutes of me waffling about this computer. I'll tell you what the specs of the fans are, just in case anybody cares. So the first second-hand fan that I got was a Silent Wings Pro 4, 140mm, which is underneath the massive heatsink for the CPU. And the last fan to be replaced is the one that's hidden by the motherboard, which is going to be exactly the same, a Silent Wings Pro 4 140. That's going to go under the GPU. And I've also got 3 Noctua NFA 12s, which are little 120mm airflow fans, 3 of them on the top of the PC, running at very, very low RPMs. So none of the fans run over 800 RPM, even when they're absolutely balls to the wall with everything at maximum capacity. So it's completely silent under full load, and it took an extra £100 worth of fans to do it. That's with selling other fans as well. So there we go. That's it. I'll now leave you with the dulcet tones of whoever is in Discord and Google while I set up for today's live show.
We hear you. A bit quiet.
I mean, you get
But
the
anyway,
distances.
Jeremy, once that you understand the celestial navigation, you're not going to find better proof than that, apart from Black Swan.
I just told you how it could get better. We get the distances.
Celestial.
I just told you how it could get better. We get the distances, and then we can show that 4 points with all the distances between all the points, it's geometry. It'll tell you if it's curving or not.
But we already know that. I already told you, right angle triangles, elevation angles. It tells you the surface must be flat for this. I don't see what's the confusion.
No confusion. I just want to get the distances. That's all.
Yeah, for that you'll need the angle reading first. And from your angle reading, you'll deduct a 90-degree angle, which is your co-altitude angle, for you to find the distance to the chip.
Hello.
What's the difficulty on understanding that?
No doubt. We're going to get the angles and we're going to get distances. And then we're going to know if it's happening on a plane. And then that'll just be one more... that'll just sew it up a little bit more for us, having this geometric proof.
I still disagree with you. Not then. Once that you have the angle, it's already proved that it's a flat plane. It's not after the angle that you come to the conclusion. No. For the angle to happen, it requires a flat plane, Jeremy.
Yeah, I know. I've heard it like a zillion times. I know. I didn't come here to fight with you guys. We hear you. Whatever that was, we heard you. Yeah, I didn't come here to fight. I came here to just see if we could get the angles from like an app or something or what.
I don't want to argue with you, Jeremy. You seem to be a nice guy. We chat a lot of times, but I still don't get it. Why you don't get it? I don't see what.
Because Because I think you could get an angle to if it was a globe. Let's just say hypothetically it was a globe. You'd be able to look out on the spot at a spot on the land, get a point, look up at a star, get another point, and now you have an angle.
No.
Yeah, but why going to pick the question of a globe?
Why not?
Because we're talking about elevation angles. It cannot happen on a globe. You don't need to pick the question for
Just pretend for a second we're on a globe.
You wouldn't have elevation angles then.
Exactly.
You need to establish a horizontal plane. You need to establish a horizontal plane first. Globes or spheres, they don't have horizontal planes. You would need to.
Point.
You would need to create one because spheres, they don't have horizontal planes. And not only that, obviously, spheres have radiuses.
You know what? Do we have a map? How about this? When we're gonna get these angles and then draw circles on a map, right?
Not necessarily on the map, but yeah, I see your point.
Where do you draw the circles on then?
Well, they have a paper special on the side where you draw your circles.
So you don't draw them on a map?
Sorry, just
but you can also do it on the map.
Hold on.
Yeah.
There's a great big long pause. Okay. Jeremy, right? So there was a big long pause after he pointed out that to get the elevation angle, you've got to reference it to a flat baseline. Yeah? And if you're using the horizon for that flat baseline, you're working on the principle that all lines that are horizontal run parallel with that horizon that you're using to establish a horizontal baseline to get the angle. Now, Jorge explained that to you. There was a great big long pause. Then you moved on, well, what are we going to do with the angle? Okay, let's not worry about that. Let's worry about the start of this process. Whatever happens afterwards doesn't matter. Because what we've done is we've measured an angle from a flat baseline. That's how we've started the process, right? You understand that?
Yeah, we get it. There's a point on the ground we look at, and then there's a point in the sky we look at. Now we got an angle, yes.
Or you could just establish horizontal with a spirit level. You know, it doesn't matter how you establish horizontal, so long as you establish horizontal. But that's the baseline for the measurement you're going to be making. And the line that you're drawing is out to the base of the star that you're measuring the angle to. So you've got a line out that's flat from your position to the bottom of the star. That's the starting point. That's the measurement of the angle. Right?
Yeah.
That's it. Game over. That's it. You've just measured a flat Earth. That's it. That's all you need to know. Well, who cares what you do with it?
Exactly.
Does it matter? Are we about to figure out where we are in the middle of the ocean with this? Or do we just need to know that in order to do this, we must first measure an angle from a flat baseline? And that flat baseline is the line between you and the star's GP. That's the position below the star. That's what you've done. Now, Jorge's point is, you said, well, let's just imagine we're on a sphere. Well, we can just draw out 3 points, can't we? No, that's not how you measure an elevation angle. You establish a horizontal baseline to measure the angle from. Again, you establish that the ground you are measuring is a flat, horizontal baseline between you and the position below the star. That's the starting point. So there is no doing that on a sphere, like Pink Panther in the picture I've got for my audience. You can't get right angles from spheres. You can't be done.
There's no flat surfaces on a sphere.
Yeah. So we're on the deck of a ship. We make a horizontal baseline out. Then we get that. Then we make another line to the star. Now we got an angle. How does that tell us if the ground's curving under us or not?
You just measured it that way. You just told me that it was.
Wow. Because we made a horizontal line out? I mean, can you do this on
that's right. You made a horizontal baseline. That's right. Baseline. Between you and the star, flat. That's what the angle was.
Could you not do this if you were on the side of a hill or something? You could still make a horizontal line and get your angle to the star, no?
Yeah, you can account for the topology. So your elevation, right? You're saying if you're elevated, what is your elevation in reference to?
You mean sea level?
So the 0 point level, the ground that you're measuring as a horizontal baseline, then that how high you are is referenced to the horizontal baseline also then. So if you're X amount of feet up a mountain, you are X amount away from the horizontal 0 baseline that runs out to the star. Yeah, you can account for that. But the account is also conceding that you're referencing how high you are in regards to a flat horizontal baseline at 0.
So we make a horizontal line. We're on a deck of a ship. We make a horizontal line out. We get the angle of the star, and now we get the line of the star. Now we have an angle. I don't see how it shows if the water is flat or curving under us.
Right, the water on a macro scale isn't flat. It's got, movement to it. But the line that you draw out to the star is flat. That's what you're measuring. Measuring a straight baseline, flat, 90 degrees below the star to your point with the angle from your feet to the star. That's the triangle. Well, the base of the triangle between you and the base of the star, its GP, is a flat horizontal line. Not
Can
falling
only
away.
be flat.
I don't know.
I mean, you don't know. That's what it is. I'll explain it again if you don't understand.
Yeah, can we take it farther though? Can we take this thing farther? We got our angles, and then what are we going to do with them? We're going to draw them on a map.
What are we going to do with them? Me, I say that proves Earth's flat. You've just measured Earth as flat. You've got a principle that requires it to be flat to work. That's all I need. Don't care about anything beyond.
Yeah, but we're lost at sea. That's not going to help you if you're lost at sea.
Yeah, then you can do celestial navigation. You can use 2 or more of those measurements of angles to draw out circles of equal elevation. And somewhere on the outside edge of the circle, between the point that you measured the angle and the distance that you got in nautical miles by minusing the angle from 90, gives you the length of the baseline between you and the GP. So you can draw the circle on the map. And you are residing somewhere on the edge of that circle. Now, you could be anywhere on the circle. That's why you need more than one of them. Now, if you drew another angle measurement to the star and then minus it from 90 to give you the nautical mile distance, times it by 60, that gives you the length between you and the GP of the second star. And when you draw that circle, it will cross over the first at some point and another point. So those 2 points that it crosses the circle are the 2 potential positions that you are residing in. Now, that's why you do 3, because then you've only got 1 point that all 3 cross. That's your location. Triangulating the stars.
I get that.
Right. But who cares? I didn't need to tell you that. I'm telling you just so the audience understands implicitly that I do understand how this is done. I'm not just fobbing you off when I say who cares what happens. It doesn't matter. We've established Earth as flat when we measured the angle. That's all that matters for our purposes.
Can I get mock-up? I want to run through this though and actually do this. Can I use mock-up angles from Stellarium or Heavens Above or one of those apps or something?
Yeah, I would imagine so, because in the almanac, all you're doing is referencing what Stellarium gives you. So Stellarium, you can tell the time of where a star is above at a given, point. So therefore, you can say, right, at 3:35, I'm going to say that this is where I'm standing, and here's my angle to. I don't know how you get the angle out of that piece of software, but maybe you can. But if you can, yeah, all it's doing is giving you a visual depiction of what the almanac will tell you. Where is the star above at a given time? Well, that's why you can track it in that software, because we know where the star's above at a given time. It's all written in the almanac or documented in that software, but you can move from memory in Stellarium. You can move the timeline back and forth. So if you can acquire an angle through it, I don't know how you do that. Absolutely, you could do it. You could figure out, if plopped in the software and it had a map to reference it with, you could say, right, I'll give you a particular time of the year, and we'll say the software, we're going to freeze at this particular point in time. Doesn't matter when the date is. Let's say it's 10 years in the future. But given that the software is going to represent where those stars are at that point in time, above that particular geographic position, i.e. GP of the star, you can do the same process. That's all you need. You need to know where the star's above at what time. That's all you need.
That's dope. I'm gonna hook you up though. I'm gonna go get 4 elevationing, or I'm gonna go do celestial navigation at 4 GPs at 4 points where they can all see the other stars, and then we're gonna get the distances between these 4 points, like all the distances between all 4 points, and then geometrically it'll tell us if the surface is plane. This will just like be a little boost to this proof already.
What, by doing it? But people do it all the time.
No, the thing I just said with the 4 points, and then you do celestial navigate, and you get the distance between all 4 of the points.
Maybe I've missed the segue.
Yes.
Are you saying that you want to do a bit of cartography and figure out where the distances actually lie in relation to a real map? Is that what you're saying?
We're gonna do celestial navigation, then we're gonna get the distances between 4 points. Like you got 4 guys and 4 GPs, and there's a guy at every GP, and they can do celestial navigation on all the stars and all these points, and then you get the distances between all these points, and those distances will tell you if it's planar or not.
Yeah, that's what you've just described is doing celestial navigation. That's what you've just described.
Yeah, hell yeah. I'm gonna do a mock-up one. I'll get back to you.
So doing celestial navigation proves we're on a plane, but it's done daily.
Let him do it. Knock yourself out.
Because of the right angle that's required.
Yeah, no, it'll just gonna help us out. That way we can have just one extra thing to show these guys, because they're not buying this whole horizontal plane elevation angle thing that we've been saying for years. So
we're not selling that,
problem.
though. We're not selling that. Right, let me just say it one more time. Right, I don't need anything beyond the acquisition of elevation angles themselves to prove Earth's flat. The process of celestial navigation isn't something I'm selling. It is what it is. It is done daily. It does use a flat plane and is required to have an elevation angle measurement taken from that flat Earth. But I don't have to sell that. That already exists and is already performed and has already saved countless lives and stopped people from getting lost and got them home. That already is. I don't have to do it to prove it's real. By coincidence, I have seen it and been I don't know how to phrase this without someone jumping down my throat going, well, that means you haven't actually done it. I've been out at sea with my sister doing it, boring the pants off me while I'm smoking marijuana when I was a kid. That's what I remember, sitting on the deck sunbathing with my sister going, I had to learn about this sextant. This is how it works. And me going, yeah, right. Didn't know how useful it would be now. But that's the reality of it. I've been out and seen it done. I don't need to. It wouldn't matter if I hadn't. If my sister never owned a boat and never trained in celestial navigation, it wouldn't make any difference. Don't need to.
So Nathan, are you saying that celestial navigation, it's not an argument, it's just something that's done daily?
Yeah, that's not our argument. Celestial navigation just is celestial navigation. When people start saying, well, I don't believe it's done like that, well, then your argument's not with me. Your argument is with the process of celestial navigation, which isn't someone to argue with.
Oh, maybe I'm missing it or something. I don't see how the first part shows us that, Earth's flat or not a globe or whatever.
Because that's how you're measuring it.
Good morning.
Yeah, but even before that, Jeremy, I already told you.
Hey, Ted.
Once they refer to lines of longitude and latitude, that is already a flat plane. Elevation angles to polarities.
I had to join a little late. Hi, Jeremy. I'm trying to figure out what you're having trouble with here.
What up, Ted? No, I'm good. I'm just going to go do this thing on Stellarium and get distances and figure it out. It's all good.
Well, I know, but it seems like what Nathan said made perfect sense. How celestial navigation is done. There's tons of videos. You could be Nathan in the sense if you turn on the YouTube video and watch someone who does it for a living and watch him do it, and you'll see the process that they go through. And when you say the angle is ascertained at the vertex, where the two straight lines meet, Where's that? Do you know the answer to that?
Where the two lines meet? At where you are making the
Yeah,
angle, or where at the GP?
Well, let's walk through. It's real simple. The GP only means ground position or geographical position, and it's a 90. It's a zenith relationship with whatever you're looking at. So if you're looking at the sun is somewhere over the earth at a 90. It's zenith, and so it's GP. You are an angle relationship to it. So when you pull out your sextant and you say, what is that angle of the sun? Because it's not over you, it's not over your GP, your ground position. It doesn't share your zenith, it's got its own zenith. So you pull out your sextant and you say, oh, that's 50-degree angle from the horizon. It's a horizontal up elevation angle. So you have a baseline from you to the sun's GP. That's a straight, level, horizontal baseline. And the sun is over there. And it's showing a 50-degree angular relationship to you. So one line is the baseline to the sun from your GP to the sun's GP. And the other line is from you to the sun above that baseline. So there's two straight lines forming an angle. Do you follow that much?
Yeah. So we got this, me, the sun, and the GP. I get the distance to the GP, and the angle from me to the sun, and the angle from the GP to the sun. Right?
You clicked out. I'm sorry. For some reason, you started talking.
Yes, you summarized correctly. Yes.
So
okay.
I think you can figure out the rest of the triangle with that. No.
No. Listen to where I'm taking you. That's what you do on the boat, okay? But when you go to the Nautical Almanac, hang on, Jeremy.
Yeah, my bad.
That's what you do on the boat. But when you go to the Nautical Almanac, it says all your measurements are based off the equatorial plane. Is the equatorial plane curved, or is it a flat disk?
Well, I think it's flat.
No, they show it to you as flat. Even in the books, it's from the center of the Earth using a flat equatorial plane is where all the measurements of all the stars that you transpose your angle to. So if you're transposing your angle from a surface of your sailboat, you're really at the equatorial plane if you go to the books to get the zenith distance. So they're using a flat plane. No one's ever using the curved surface is our point.
What were you going to ask?
Because you can't.
Hold on. What were you going to ask about the rest of the triangle?
Oh, if you have a right angle triangle and you got the two angles, the right angle and another angle, and then you have a distance, can't you figure out the rest of the triangle?
In this instance, no. The reason is because imagine you're getting a 2-for-1 out of the angle, basically. When you take the angle and then you minus that angle from 90 and times it by 60, what you're getting is the second distance to the GP of the star. The problem in terms of getting the third length is that as the star or sun or moon or whatever you're measuring moves away from you, it's essentially getting lower. Now, you can, I wouldn't, got to be careful here, describe that as a perspective effect. i.e. it's reaching the horizon as it goes away from you, and as it does so, it's increasing the distance, i.e. the GP length when you measure that angle and minus it from 90 will be increased when you times it by 60, aka a greater distance. But does that mean that the celestial body is closer to the ground? No, it does not. But the fact that you're extracting out the distance to the GP from the angle when you minus it from 90 times it by 60 doesn't mean that you can then use that value to give you the height, because the way you've got the angle is by referencing it in terms of elevation angle. How high off the deck? Well, how high off the deck isn't a literal high off the deck, right? The way the heavens present themselves to us lets us know that the distance is relative to the angle, but it doesn't give us the height. That's not because triangles can't be calculated that way, they can. But in this instance, it doesn't directly translate into reality. And it's one of those things that makes me smile because it kind of reveals the beauty of the heavens. The fact that they do this. Also, and it's another thing that makes me smile in the same regard, the angle doesn't change when you go up in elevation, which you'd think it would. It would get lower, right? The angle would decrease as you raised up if it had a fixed height, but it doesn't. And it still does the same thing, gets closer to the horizon as it increases the distance that you would measure to its GP. So no, you can't get the height, unfortunately, to give you a long-winded explanation as to why and the answer, which is no.
Well, I'm going to go make these mock-ups of these these 4 GPs, the angles, and I'll get back to you guys.
Are you out at sea at the moment?
No.
For what purpose?
We use Stellarium. You said we could use Stellarium, right?
I said you could if you could get angles.
Yeah.
If someone dropped you at a random position in Stellarium and gave you the time and fixed it so that you could just then figure out how in Stellarium you could get those angles. But I don't think you can. You know, in the same way, when you're in a piece of software, now I've thought about it, in the same way conspiracy cats had to count pixels and then say, well, you can have a flat Earth. He's only estimating. The angle measurement to the star is something that you have to measure. You'd have to be there holding a sextant as opposed to doing it in Stellarium. But if Stellarium told you what the elevation angle measurement was to the given star that you were looking at, then yeah, you could absolutely do it just using Stellarium. Wouldn't even need the almanac because there's the information for you.
I'll save him some time. It doesn't matter. If you use Stellarium, you can look at it 2 ways. You can look at it from the alt-az horizontal coordinate system. That's the altitude azimuth, which is what we do when we use Earth as the coordinate, as the reference point. Or you could switch to the equatorial, where the sky becomes the map. And now you're using the sky. Now, you got to ask yourself the question. If on the alt-az coordinate system, all the angles are coming from the equatorial plane, as told by the Nautical Almanac and everyone who uses it, what is the EQ when the sky becomes the reference and not the Earth? What is that using for its reference? You find that answer, you can say bingo with capital letters. Because it's the same.
I mean, I just think having all. Oh, my bad.
Because it's the celestial horizon that meets up with the Earth's equatorial plane. Is the reference.
I just think having all these distances between 4 points, that'd be like a death blow. It's like a nail in the coffin right there.
Yeah. It's already a nail in the coffin. You can't work without a baseline that's straight. It can't work without a flat baseline, no matter if you say it's coming from the equator or the surface.
Don't get frustrated, right? Just because I have been privileged to you going through this with me for 10, 12, 18 months doesn't mean this guy has necessarily. And, you know, the penny is dropping, but every time he says, I just need to go out and get these 4 points, like people get the 3 points every time they do this.
The whole concept is to make it easier and not get lost in the diatribe of the opposition to try to confuse everybody. Can a sextant work off of a curved baseline? Everyone knows the answer is no. That's why they draw a tangent plane to transpose it to the equatorial plane. It's the same one single thing. They've just got all these horizons to fool you, to double speak, to say, well, there's a sensible horizon. That's if you have a level through your eye all the way to the GP, so a baseline in the sky equal to your height and your eye line. Okay, well, how do you, well, I need a bubble for that. I mean, I need a spirit level of my section. Oh yeah, we have the bubble section with the spirit level. Okay, great. But what if I'm at sea and I'm using the horizon and the boat's rocking and I can't use the bubble to create that baseline? Oh, well, then you aim at the horizon, you bring the sun down to that and you rock your sextant to get perpendicular to know the sun's zenith. Okay, and then what? Well, then how high are you above the water line? Well, 10 feet. Great, minus that, and there's your baseline. Oh, so 90. Yeah, exactly. It's the same thing. Everything's the same thing. It's just got 10 of the same things.
Right, so Earth is flat. Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto, and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Now, we are joined by Neil, Adam, 10th, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Hey!
Hey, good afternoon.
You hear me, G+?
What is happening?
Flat Earth Debate, we're live. You guys okay?
We're good.
Oh, jolly good.
Hey.
Well, good to hear. It's not often that the Discord server is more enthusiastic about the show starting than the G+ server, but that's life. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge horizon, formerly known as the curve of the Earth?
Negative.
None whatsoever.
Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
You're talking about movement?
About 15
Reference
degrees an hour
frame
adrift.
have been ruined.
Go on, Jorge.
Well, Simon Dan considered already. The reference frames have been ruined.
Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
No, you need R for that.
Any evidence of the R value? Earth radius.
Not since the 1st of January 2020, been debunked by the Black Swan.
Any evidence that you can acquire an elevation angle measurement from a curved baseline?
No. Without a horizontal plane, you cannot have an elevation angle.
I've got a few words on this housekeeping question. Do you mind if I give it a mention?
You can. I've kind of forgotten which housekeeping question we're on, though.
You'll know when I give you the poem.
Okay, go ahead.
You've heard it before. The elevation angle has got definition. Let's look at the words and take a listen. It's the angle between the horizontal plane. Let's just break that down again. Angle, as in two straight lines. Horizontal, parallel to the plane. Surely we don't need to repeat that again. So, it's an angle formed by the line of sight. Above the sea level, works just right. Level is horizontal too. If the Earth was curved, elevation angles would never work for you. So no, you can't get an elevation angle from a curved baseline. It's impossible.
We formally asked the question, any
Well
evidence
done, man.
that level is not horizontal? And Brian sent me a chunked out section of BevTry Thinking server, which is kind of the reason why we've got a sub-faction of Flat Earth that want to deny Flat Earth for some reason. We've been covering it recently if you've been keeping up to date with the Flat Earth debate, because it's an interesting subcategory, shall we call it. So we've got us, I should call me an us, Flat Earthers. And then you've got people who are anti-us. Not globe believers, but anti-flat earthers, the people who contest us in what we disseminate at all costs. And then you've got this third faction, which is flat earth deniers. So they understand and appreciate how the earth is flat, but want to deny describing earth as flat. Well, as I say, Brian sent me this section where they're going through the definitions and whys and wherefores and the synonyms and antonyms of flat. Very amusing indeed, as there's lots of stony silences and pennies dropping. Thank you for sending me that, Brian. Typically, I wouldn't watch, but I don't know what came over me to watch that bit that you chunked out. I think it's probably because you specifically named me in the chat thread, Brian. Sorry to have an internal discussion with one of the panel members. Thank you for sending me, Brian, and thank you for tagging me to make sure I understood the importance of what you were sending. But I think it does negate the need to ask any evidence that level is not horizontal. There we go. Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth? Oh, and thank you, by the way, One Deck.
I'm going to need that for that.
My pleasure.
We covered that. Any scientific evidence of gravity?
Which one?
Currently, it's Einsteinian, pseudo-Ramonian for space-time bending.
It's not science.
No, it's not. Mathematics.
You'd have to observe it first of all.
You can't.
So
There's
how
nothing to observe.
How come they go back to Newtonian? Whenever you're discussing
Regardless
gravity,
which one we're talking about, it's not science.
Okay. Because you need to be ingrained and indoctrinated with the idea that gravity is a force throughout your educational childhood. And then if you make it to higher education, they will explain that Newtonian mass attracting mass isn't actually a force, and that the current rhetoric of Einsteinian fourth dimensional space-time bending is the reason Earth is moving up at 9.8 meters per second should you jump off a building, because you're a flat earther, and are encouraged to do so by people who say that their religious belief in a globe is true and that Earth is moving up at 9.8 meters per second because we're in a bending geodesic in a space-time. There you go. Does that answer your question?
Well,
Einsteinian.
According to Eric Valinder, the review video he did the other day, where he says gravity is now real, he said it's an illusion.
Okay.
Is correct.
Yeah, there isn't anything to see as a phenomena.
Yeah, that's right.
Any single
Mind trick.
Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics? Please share the show if you're watching. 50 people watching. Woohoo.
Can you please explain to the audience
Again,
what
it's
is
not
a
science.
scientific... Can you please explain to the audience what is a valid scientific hypothesis before we answer that question?
Valid scientific hypothesis has the presumed cause of an effect you're studying in nature and the antithesis of that prediction, which is the presumed cause of an effect you're observing in nature not causing the effect. So if A, then B is your supposition of cause causing the effect, and if A, not B is your supposition of cause not causing the effect. Those two things side by side in a scientific prediction, otherwise known as a hypothesis. So supposition that you vary something and it'll cause the effect you're studying, and supposition that you vary something and it won't cause the effect you're studying. When you go forth to do the experiment, which is the actualization of that prediction, otherwise known as a hypothesis, you will either validate that it does cause the effect you're studying or does not cause the effect you're studying, therefore validating one or other of the sides of the hypothesis. Null or alternative will be validated, hence the empiricism of the method. There you go.
Okay, so if we apply it to the question, please read the question again.
Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
Well, in those fields, they have observation of a phenomena, but how can they be true to a supposition in a true hypothesis if they can't vary it?
It being their supposition of cause,
Well,
and their
by
supposition of cause
definition,
is a
it's
bending
pseudoscience.
geodesic space-time continuum. Yeah, that's not
Well,
real.
the point is you can observe something as a phenomena in nature and say, I'm seeing something happen through my telescope. There's a star blinking. Why is that star blinking? What's the cause of the blinking? Or whatever other thing you want to ask about it.
Gotcha.
Okay, that you're stuck. That's all you could do. You can't vary anything. There's no way to find out.
Well, you can, but they just haven't. So we're asking, what have you got to suppose causes the twinkling light in your example? In other words, what have you varied and manipulated physically as a researcher with that you will vary in the hypothesis as the presumed cause to cause the light to twinkle? And they haven't. That's why we ask them if they've got a valid hypothesis. That would be to have something that they could vary. They don't. They just have just so stories. They tell you about how the stars work with a just so story about how the stars work because they've looked at it and decided that's how it works.
Right. So if
like
they
their
look and say this is a
Hold on one deck. Go ahead, Tim.
Sorry, Tim. Sorry.
Yeah. So if they look and say this is a black hole and there's this thing going on in there and there's this gravity thing going on in there, how would they know?
They just tell you.
Yeah, I know, that's what I'm saying. So
they just tell you what it is. They say, this is what I've named it. This is what it is.
I'm just going to believe it, Sam. What's up with you?
Just comprehend and repeat.
So therefore, not going through the scientific method for cause and effect.
No. None of these space assertions have gone through the scientific method. None of it's science. But you'll often hear them appealing to their science that they don't have. So that you believe it's validated empirically when it isn't.
No, they call it observational science. Don't you know that, Nathan?
Whatever. They use the word science when they haven't validated cause and effect.
It's a handy trick because when they use the word science, we've all been programmed to think it's gone through some method and it's validated anytime you hear the science of it. It's backed by science.
Any evidence that you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon? Please share the show. Still 50 people watching.
No evidence
Without
of
the
that.
container, there can be no pressure.
Correct. If the sky was a vacuum, the gas we breathe would fill the space. I think that's it. I think we've covered all our housekeeping. Seems like there's a few names in new names in Discord. Does anybody have anything that they wanted to ask or go over before we go on to Sabine? Because we didn't cover her a couple of days ago. We just got through her intro in the pre-show. Anybody? Anybody at all? Discord, this is your time.
Flight Bruce.
I'll just say good morning from Australia.
How's it going?
Yeah, not too bad.
Are you a globe believer flying high?
Definitely not.
Ah, what a shame. I'm only joking. Welcome. Very good to have you.
Thank you.
A model where both poles are on the disk, surrounded by water that's held by a rim of something.
I do this every time, don't I? I should really introduce it and share it, as I would hope. Oops, I didn't mean to thumb it down. How do I unthumb it down? Copy. Here we go. So I'm going to stick this in the link, in the live stream chat box, rather. So you can check out Sabine Hossenfelder. Can someone say her surname at least once correctly? I don't want to be that disrespectful.
Sabine.
Felder.
Just the first name. It's a tough one.
Sabine, I can say. That's no problem.
you're good. You're good.
Hossenfelder. Come on, someone say it properly just once so I can move on.
Hossenfelder.
There we go. Hossenfelder. Sabine Hossenfelder is the name of the channel. And obviously it's her talking in the video. We did cover this a couple of days ago, but we didn't do more than like 2 minutes of it. So we'll plough our way through it now and we'll see how we get on. If anybody else wants to react, just shout up. You're not going to get in trouble.
Maybe ice or rocks. And a minority of flat earthers believe that Earth is really an infinite plane.
What? Majority? Stereotyping fallacy. How do you know? Have you surveyed the majority of flat earthers to assess whether or not the majority of them believe the world's an infinite plane? Because here and now, reacting to you, I can only speak for myself and have a good idea of what my panel believe to be the case. None of us would assert that. Now, all of us would give credence to the speculation because we can't disprove it either. But I don't believe that the Earth is an infinite plane, and I wouldn't assert it publicly either because I've got nothing to back that. But you're going to stereotype us into everybody believes the Earth's, or the majority believes the Earth's an infinite plane if they know it's flat. Anybody agree with that? Let's not decry it immediately, because there might be somebody who just says, yeah, actually, I do think that. Anybody at all?
Can I comment?
Unless you think it's an infinite plane, do you?
Well, it's based on how you answered about the stars. It's like, if you have a supposition of what you think it is, how do you go about to prove it? If you can't prove it, then it's just a best guess, and that's it. It stops there. So how would I ever know if it's an infinite plane? What would I need to do to say? Well, I haven't done any of it to say those words.
Well, for a start, the description mathematically...
I would say we have gas pressure.
Yeah, we must be contained to have gas pressure. That is an issue, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it doesn't jive with the conditions that an infinite plane would be used or have described in them. But infinite is a mathematical description that doesn't exist in reality to begin with. Now, I realise that in their Big Bang cosmology, they've got a lot of infinite stuff going on. But that doesn't mean that it's a thing that exists. So to assert it to take this mathematical conception and impose it on our physical reality is something that I wouldn't necessarily ascribe in any description. Now, the way that somebody might say, no, I don't necessarily mean it in the mathematical reification. I mean it in this way, and then they go on to explain how the Earth expands out and potentially could continue. They could even link it back to a quantum mechanical description outside the realms that we understand and know to exist. That I could even, swallow. But most of them think that there's an infinite plane. It's just a stereotyping fallacy. That's all she's doing.
Well, Nathan, what I'm trying to say is this.
Sorry. I had 10th first. Go ahead, 10th.
Yeah, what I'm trying to say is this. If someone was to ask me directly, okay, you're a flat earther, do you think it's an infinite plane, or do you think it stops somewhere? I go, how would I know? I only try to make claims that I can back up. I know it's flat. I know it's a baseline with the sextant, and I know that I got gas pressure. But to the size of it, I have nothing to offer as proof that I did to prove anything. It's something I got to avoid answering by saying I know. I say, well, some people think of this, some people think of this, and I don't know. It's like, why argue about it?
Who else was trying to go?
No.
One deck. I had one deck next, I think, and then Jeremy.
Yeah, it was more or less what Temp was saying. I mean, I suppose we can only really say from the oceans that we've sailed and been on, and the land that we've been on and navigated, we know that they are navigated, using elevation angles and a flat baseline, which is the Earth, in the areas that we have been and do know. Other than that, we don't know anything else, would be my answer.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, Oakley. I don't believe in infinity. Even if it was, say it was an infinite plane, you could never even prove it. You could just keep going and going and be like, yeah, I'm still going, radio back, hey, it's still going. And then it's nothing you could ever actually prove. It's just, yeah.
It's funny how that show Buzz Lightyear says infinity and beyond.
Yeah, it's one of their conceptions. Again, like with most things heliocentric, they impose a lot of their fundamentalist religious zealot beliefs onto us and then show how they don't work in our, in this case, stereotyped conception of a flat plane being infinite. You're like, what? You've got an infinite expanding nothingness as a sky vacuum, but you want me to somehow have an infinite plane because it was there for someone to gobble at the feast of nonsense. No, the majority of us don't think that. Not a single person on this fairly diverse flat earth community that I've built here has agreed with you. Not one. Is there anybody who can agree with Sabine's statement that they believe Earth's an infinite plane? Because she thinks the majority of us think this, and not even the majority of this flat earth discussion panel thinks this.
They mostly agree, though, that gravity does not exist.
They mostly agree that gravity doesn't exist. Now, while that might be a factually true statement, that gravity does not exist as a physical phenomena, i.e. with qualification, it's another baseless assertion and stereotyping fallacy. So you're stereotyping the most of us. No, I would imagine that the majority of flat earthers have a cursory understanding of the nature of their reality and don't have an opinion or an understanding of gravity either way, but understand implicitly that it's something described in a heliocentric world, or in their world if they're that limited in their flat earth capacity. So again, this generalization isn't true either. I wouldn't expect average Joe flat earther to be able to debunk gravity. Let's put it that way.
We don't need gravity.
Hang on. No, hang on. Don't miss the moment. Eric Verlinder's not a flat earther. He doesn't believe gravity exists. George Muser says gravity's not a force, and he's not a flat earther. It's their position that gravity doesn't exist.
Also, Prof. Brian Cox, there isn't really a force of gravity at all, end quote. So, again, don't project your own side's conflict when it comes to Einsteinian fourth-dimensional space-time bending as a reified conceptual medium that we exist in when we don't have a fourth dimension. That's not us. That's you. Get your own house in order.
And that
like
the observation...
Go on, Ron.
I was just saying, like we said in the housekeeping questions, it has to be observed in the first instance to then carry out the scientific method. And that's not been done. And that's why we asked for the evidence. And nobody's coming forth with the evidence. So no, gravity mostly doesn't exist, love.
We normally attribute to gravity come instead from the upward acceleration of the flat Earth.
Again, no. If you study your own Einsteinian mechanics, you have Earth moving up at 9.8 meters per second squared. Now, the fact that this rhetoric from a heliocentric model, like with your infinite expanding universe, is transposed onto a pizza pie pancake from the Flat Earth Society is merely a way of you attacking us for your own very weak, failed points. It's the same as an edge. Why is it that we are ascribed to a belief in an edge of a pizza pie? Why is that? Well, I'll tell you why. Because in the heliocentric model, they have boats falling over an edge. Their horizon is an edge for boats to fall over. So, what do you want to do if you're in a position to have to defend a positive claim that boats fall over a horizon edge called Earth Curve, debunked in 2020 by the Black Swan? Well, best thing you can do is get your opponent to defend their edge and make their edge farcical so you can laugh at it. That's much better. Put your opponent on the back foot for a position that you claim and they don't. That's their rhetoric. Same goes for the dome. Why are we asked to show a dome and describe what it's made of? Well, because they've got gas pressure not expanding into a sky vacuum as a positive claim. If you're scratching your head going, why am I having to justify a dome? Well, because they need to justify a sky vacuum with a violation of the second law of thermodynamics to take pictures from. That's why. So suddenly you're in a position to have to prove something you've never, ever even considered, presumably. Because why would you? You were raised in a heliocentric world of a sky vacuum without any containment. Suddenly you realise that Earth isn't as you've been told, and suddenly you're charged as a flat earther with proving what the dome's made of. No, you didn't make a positive claim, Mr. Flat Earther. They did. They made a claim the sky was a vacuum. And that pictures are coming from there. They appeal to them all the damn time. But rather than getting to the nitty-gritty of whether or not the sky is a vacuum, much better for you to be on the back foot defending a dome that you can't prove. Well, I can prove we've got containment. I don't know what the form is. I just know we've got gas pressure. Debunking the sky vacuum. Debunking their positive claim that there's a space, called space, that gas isn't filling. So don't be duped into these nonsensical rhetorical uses of their own failed rhetoric superimposed onto you as a flat earther. You don't have to justify any of this nonsense that Sabine Hossenfelder, got it, yes, is superimposing onto you. You don't have to justify their positive claims, not ours.
As a consequence, the apparent gravitational acceleration is the same everywhere on Earth.
Again, all she's doing now is describing how gravitation is described to work in flat Earth. So she can attack that. Again, so she's got a non-defensible position of a phenomena that doesn't exist in gravity. Is she defending that? No. She superimposed it onto the opponent to attack that.
I explained some weeks ago that this is in conflict with evidence.
In conflict with evidence? What, the superimposed non-gravitational moving up of a pizza pie when you say it's not matching evidence? What evidence is that?
Know that the gravitational acceleration is most definitely not the same.
Oh, we just know that. Sorry, you said it was in conflict with evidence, and then you just came out with some words telling us that it's the same everywhere on Earth. What's gravitational acceleration? Given that it's a bending pseudo-Riemannian four space-time dimension in Einsteinian's rhetoric.
Everywhere on Earth. The idea that gravity is due to upward acceleration
is a heliocentric concept from Einstein.
Also causes other problems.
Well, why would Einstein say it then? Because it's not our rhetoric, it's yours. She's now debunking Einstein's rhetoric of 9.8 meters per second upwards of the Earth. That's Einstein.
For example, you have to assume that the moon...
What's this pizza pie? Why is it that you've changed the globe and its failures with a 9.8 meters per second upward vector into a flat pizza pie with an upward vector with physically reified sun and moon above it? This is not something we claim. This is a pathetic straw man that some ignorant flat earthers gobble down at the feast of nonsense and then spew up. That's not the majority.
Moon and the sun accelerate along with the flat Earth, so we don't
claim that.
Just run into them. That's an ad hoc assumption, which disfavors the flat...
Ad hoc assumption when it's superimposed onto a flat Earth. What about if I put a globe in that diagram? What about if I show a geodesic space-time well with the globe Earth in it, and then describe it as a piece of plastic being stretched out and roll it round inside the stretched plastic? And then describe how that actually means we're moving up at 9.8 meters per second relative to our position, as described by Einstein's mathematics. Is that an ad hoc assumption? That we've got a fourth dimension space-time? Yeah, that's an ad hoc assumption by Einstein, love.
Earth hypothesis against
Not a hypothesis. Nor is it a hypothesis when Einstein presented it, for your globe Earth moving up at 9.8 meters per second squared.
Models were the orbits of the moon and the...
Orbits? Why have we got orbits? Another heliocentric conception. So Kepler's orbital mechanics are suddenly superimposed onto a flat Earth when they're not falling around the pizza pie in your bastardized stereotype fallacy, straw man, false dichotomy that uses Einstein's nonsense.
The sun can be calculated from the gravitational law.
Gravitational law? It's not a law. Hasn't been a law for 108 years. What's she talking about? Einstein's bending fourth dimensional space-time.
What?
Go on, whoever that was.
Yeah, that was me. This is great. What you've identified is their weakest point transposed onto flat earthers as if there are points. And it's their weakest points. And it's just embarrassing when you realize she starts off with this to set the mood for her audience. But the audience is hoodwinked to think that these are flat earth statements when they're really from heliocentric Einstein stuff. And it's their weakest points.
Just under 100 people watching. Massive, massive shout out to all of you who shared the show. That's the only reason there's just under 100 people watching. So please share the show if you haven't done so already. And if you have, thank you very much. Really, really appreciate it. The numbers in the last few live shows have been fantastic. Not fantastic. Better than they were. And I'm really, really grateful that they are on the way up again.
But that's not the only problem. You also have to get the moon and the sun to somehow circle around over the disk to...
Right. Again, circle around over the disk. Somehow you, in Einsteinian mechanics, have to get the sun to be at the centre with Earth circling around it. Now, your orbital mechanics, you very specifically detailed when you use that word orbits, isn't something that we ascribe to. It's something that you have taken out of heliocentrism and superimposed onto us.
To explain day and night and the phases of the moon.
We're not using this to explain day and night. How does day and night work? I watch the sun come up over the horizon. It goes over me and then goes away. As it does so, it's lighting up other bits of land, and I can measure the land it's lighting up based on where its GP is. That would be the land it's above. It's further away as time passes. So, yeah, it's moved over a different part of the land. I know that for a fact. What's that? Oh, actually, Earth turned. We've got a 15 degrees an hour rotation, and we're falling perpetually around the sun, aka orbits. What's that? Oh, no, I'm confused. You're talking about flat Earth orbits where suns move over pizza pie. That's not an orbit. That's not what Kepler described. What are you babbling about, love? This isn't a flat earth mechanic. It's a heliocentric one. But the problems you're detailing are merely the problems with your ad hoc descriptions, in quotes, that have come from Einstein and Kepler.
To get the day-night cycle to be noticeable, you have to shrink the sun and move it closer to the Earth.
You had to shrink the sun when you decided that it was massive, and now you're deciding that it's going to be smaller versus your assumption based on Kepler's third law of interplanetary motion and an assumption that Venus has the same R value as Earth. That's how you got your massive sun to now declare that we've shrunk it. I haven't done anything. Has anybody here shrunk the sun?
Not for a while, but she's doing a great job of debunking herself on the heliocentric model. She's brilliant at it. She's just debunking the whole heliocentric garbage. Well done, love.
Yeah, she's showing her heliocentric model and just substituting in a flat plane that we do not claim is moving up at 9.8 meters per second through space. We don't think space is real. We don't think we've got an ice wall edge. None of this is true. It may be true for a very specific small number of people called the Flat Earth Society. That's who it may be true for. But we make none of these assertions. The Flat Earth Society isn't our overarching religious head. That is not what they are. Now, heliocentrism, on the other hand, very much has priests that have come up with these claims that she's taking apart and put them into a sphere Earth world. But she thinks that it's justifiable to take them apart based on what they don't do on a pancake world. All right.
Earth. You also have to somehow get the radiation of the sun to be directional. That's many more ad hoc assumptions.
We don't have to do anything. I don't claim this model. I don't have to make it do anything.
But even with those assumptions, the size of the sun will change during the day.
Would it? All right, so you know what the sun is and how it behaves. And you're going to tell us how the sun would behave on an ad hoc description from Einstein superimposed onto a flat Earth. Okay, meanwhile, the sun and its size is very much debunked from a heliocentric worldview. Your worldview, love. Your worldview gives you a massive sun based on interplanetary motion derivations of the scale so that you can insert an R value for Earth based on a geometric horizon onto Venus to give you its size. I can debunk every aspect of that heliocentric nonsense assertion, aka, quote, ad hoc explanation. Because it's very much ad hoc to just assume Earth's a sphere, and very much ad hoc to assume Venus is the same spherical value as Earth. So you can ad hoc use Kepler's third law to give you an ad hoc size of the sun.
More than we observe. And no one has ever successfully predicted solar eclipses on a flat Earth.
What? What are you talking about? Are you telling us that none of them actually tracked how the Earth had a relationship with the sky prior to people's assumption of a sphere Earth? That's wrong.
Or calculated the observed motions of the planets.
They were all observed and documented and refined, including refinements in a heliocentric point of view. So the refinements, while they were documenting the movements of the stars and figuring out their inconsistencies with things like retrograde motion and planets that aren't tracking at the same rate as all the other stars and sun and moon, all of those refinements came and had heliocentrism incorporated in the historical journey. So what are you babbling about?
The bottom line is, it's not easy.
This is embarrassing because the ancients who believed in the flat Earth, the plane that we live on, the irregular plane with valleys and hills and sea level as the baseline, they all knew about eclipses, the ephemeris, the stars. This was all in advance before the heliocentrism came.
Shout out to Godzilla37. He says, a globe are telling us we're using ad hoc assumptions. Now I've heard it all. yeah, exactly. She attacks her straw man, Godzilla. Thank you very much for the super chat. Really appreciate it.
Easy to improve on today's scientific standard.
Scientific standard? You mean the scientific method that you have absolutely not adhered to in any of these claims not one has gone through the scientific method. Standards? I'm pretty sure that your standards are pretty low when it comes to science, love. We'll find out.
It was for good reasons that the hypothesis of a flat Earth was...
Right, a hypothesis for a flat Earth. Back to the same misapprehension about what science is as the guy yesterday. Hypothesis, that would be a cause and effect relationship, a scientific prediction. A hypothesis for a flat Earth. So I vary A and cause a flat Earth. It's a concrete noun. This clown doesn't know what science is. Sabine, you don't know what science is? Why is it in your title when you're establishing that you can't have a scientific hypothesis for a concrete noun? No, you can't, love, because it doesn't fall within the remit of scientific exploration. That would be to establish the cause of a phenomena you're studying in nature, something happening. You think flat Earth, a concrete noun, is something happening to put it through the scientific method and establish a hypothesis? What's your hypothesis for flat Earth? Well, if A, that would be I vary this, I'll cause Earth flat. What do you mean cause Earth flat? That's not something happening. That's not a phenomena. That's not something to cause. She's a stupid idiot. She doesn't know what science is.
Was abandoned more than 2,000 years ago.
Right, hypotheses don't get abandoned. You vary that which you assume causes an effect you're studying and see if it causes it. You don't abandon a hypothesis. Oh, you do in pseudoscience, don't you? Because in pseudoscience heliocentrism, a hypothesis is used as an explanation. Doesn't have to be validated, doesn't have to be experimentally valid. It just needs to be used as an explanation. And then when it's no longer valid for a pseudoscience heliocentrist, it's quote-unquote abandoned. What, the explanation that the hypothesis wasn't? Because in a hypothesis, an actual scientific prediction, with flat Earth as the phenomena that it isn't, if A, I vary this, it will cause flat Earth. If A is varied, I won't cause flat Earth. This makes no sense, love. None. Zero. It doesn't make any sense. Because you don't know what science is. You know that you've got explanations that are called hypotheses that don't get put through the method. They get abandoned. Go on.
Nathan, it's a good time for me to remind the audience listening what the title of this video is. It says, Flat Earth Science, Wrong, but Not Stupid. And she just lived to that title, but switched the reference to Flat Earth. I mean, her heliocentric thing is wrong, and she's trying to say it's not stupid, because she's only used heliocentrism here.
Some people suggested to me that flat earthers do not actually believe the earth is flat.
Some people suggested to me that Christians don't actually believe in Christ. What the hell kind of stupid statement is that?
They are just mocking people who take scientific evidence on trust.
You don't take scientific evidence on trust. You take it based on its empirical validity. So what you're saying is the people who don't actually think the earth is flat, but call themselves flat earthers because they just like being ridiculed by tossers like you, they are actually only saying the earth's flat so they can mock people who take scientific evidence on trust, when scientific evidence requires no trust, no faith, no belief. But what you call scientific evidence, it isn't, requires trust, and we say that you are stupid for taking non-science, called by Sabine scientific evidence when it isn't, on trust. Yeah, I absolutely will mock you. And you'll get my venom. Because in this statement, you're saying that it's wrong for me as a flat earther, even though I don't really think the earth's flat according to this nonsensical statement, to tell people that when they're presented with quote-unquote scientific evidence, they don't need to take it on trust unless it's lies. Then you absolutely require trust and faith and belief in what you peddled as science and isn't. Science doesn't require any belief. If If you varied that which you assume caused something and it caused it, it caused it. That's the end. There's no belief or trust or anything required. You just don't have any science, Sabine. You definitely require trust when you're peddling pseudoscience.
And that, let us be honest, is something we all do to some extent every day.
What? I don't do that ever. I don't take scientific validity on trust because it's not required. You do it in heliocentric world of bullshits and lies about stars that you haven't validated scientifically when you give up titles for them and descriptions for them. That's all that we get from heliocentrists. No science ever. But well, if you don't take it on trust, you'll get ridiculed by people who don't really think it's flat but will tell you that they're flat earthers.
Every now and then. And it is probably the case that some flat earthers are indeed just pretending.
What? Some flat earthers are just pretending what? That Earth's flat? Nobody in their right mind would ascribe themselves the title of flat earther if they didn't think it was flat. Because what does that benefit them? What, to be ridiculed and told that you should be taking scientific evidence on trust?
But I find it exceedingly implausible they are all just faking it.
So why postulate it, you stupid cow?
To begin with, they would all have to be excellent actors.
So, based on your descriptions that we don't think it's flat, and how and why we don't think it's flat, because we ridicule and mock people who take something that's empirical on faith, because it isn't actually empirical when you're presenting it, now you're saying that you don't actually believe that that could be the case, completely contradicting your last point. Okay.
Just look at some of the videos on YouTube.
Like this one where I pull you through the hedgerows backwards, kicking and screaming, as you show my audience how little you know about science.
Also, they are putting quite some time and in some cases money behind their conviction.
No, on the contrary, I make money from this. This is my living. People pay me. Literally in the last week or so, somebody who's asked me to go side by side, toe to toe with a couple of other globe-believing Muppets and debate them, gave me money because he had achieved success in debate through watching this show. He's like, "Is my dues. Please, can you come and help me debate these other two tossers?" I was like, yeah, no worries. Thank you very much for the donation. But I don't spend a significant amount of money to realise my convictions in flat Earth. I know it's flat. But people pay me to do that, not the other way around.
And that's why most of them full well know coming out as flat earther will make others doubt their sanity.
Like, you think that doubting... Yeah, no, it's not sanity that would get people to doubt. It's their conviction in your nonsense of heliocentrism that they doubt. But obviously you're going to make that seem like doubting heliocentrism is actually being insane. Doubting your own sanity. No, you on the heliocentric side have made the world doubt their own sanity and superimposed a heliocentric sphere Earth worldview into their world. So when that gets taken away from them, suddenly their entire worldview changes. Doesn't mean they're questioning their sanity, it means they're questioning your validity and your heliocentric assertions. Go on, whoever that was.
That was me. This is a crucial point to point out. Are any of our housekeeping questions formed in such a way that would make someone doubt their sanity?
No.
Anybody? No. Okay, here, one example. Can you have gas pressure? Is it possible for gas pressure to exist without containment? Oh my gosh, I'm going crazy. Why you ask that question? Oh my gosh, dude. It's just pure projection, Nathan. Everything's just pure projection here.
Yeah, they're gaslighting your reality. And then when you question their gaslighting, they tell you that you're going nuts. It is literally...
That's what I'm getting. Everything here is projection.
Yeah, it's psychopathic.
All that makes it unlikely they are just in for the fun. Now, you may...
Sorry, where's the examples of fun in Flat Earth? What do you mean in it for the fun? A minute ago it was in it not because of Earth being obviously observably, measurably, and navigatably flat, but in it because we want to mock people who claim to be science. Now you're deciding something completely different. It's just because it's a bit of fun. Sorry, what's the is this a fairground? Talking about Earth and a massive deception about it. That's a bit of a laugh, is it? No, I take this very seriously.
You may want to discard flat earthers as conspiracy theorists.
You may want to. Did you, think that little subtle permission giving to your audience? You may want to consider this woman a lesbian. You don't have to, but you may want to consider that.
Which some fraction of them arguably are.
And some fraction of women are lesbians.
But I think that would be somewhat unfair to most of them.
That would be unfair to most women who aren't lesbians.
To understand why, it helps to have a look at the history of the Flat Earth Society.
Why? Because is it per se the reason you've got a video debunking every word that they've said, and after you've debunked it as stereotyping fallacies, you're going to suggest that we look at the Flat Earth Society, who reaffirm every single stereotyping fallacy, because actually all you've done is taken apart their rhetoric with their Einsteinian interwoven nonsensical assertions from heliocentrism. So now we need to be introduced to every little straw man and where you've got it from. Well, at least she actually validated what I said earlier,
So
which is this is just Flat Earth Society. Go ahead, 10th.
Yeah. So introduce controlled opposition with the title of your opposition. Say stupid stuff, then break down the stupid stuff, and then stereotype that all of them say the same stupid stuff.
And then go have a look at an example, and you'll find they say all this stuff. Shocking.
The Flat Earth Society goes back to an Englishman by name Samuel Rowbotham, who lived in the 19th century.
Relevant to us now because we're living in 1817. And obviously this is generally relevant to us now. So, society developed by a guy who died in 1884 is something that you want to go and have a look up on the internet. Wouldn't you prefer to go out and look at what people are saying now, as opposed to what Rowbotham developed back then? I would say that I'm relevant to look at, because you haven't got a clue what I claim. You're taking apart something from the 1800s by the sounds of things, love.
He was a medical doctor who believed he had proved that the Earth is flat and then complained for the...
Hang on, Nathan. This is a crucial point again. Now, many organizations start off good and even right on with, like, I mean, I could take so many examples here, but I'll just take one. Let's say someone has an organization that believes in the Bible literal. And today that same religion is very liberal. So they go back to the past and say, yeah, at one time, this is what this organization believed. But now we think, it's okay to do this, this, and the other when it's a sin to these people to do those things because they interpret the Bible literally. So the Samuel Rowbotham was against the Globers at the day. But something happened, and Brian's logic knows this because he's talked about it, that organization is changed now, and it's controlled opposition. So it's not the same Samuel Rowbotham with the same Samuel Rowbotham viewpoints. It's now controlled opposition, kind of like a church-going liberal would not meet the standards of the Bible. So you have to call it out for what it is. Just by calling someone from the past and saying he started it, yeah, maybe it was good when he started it. What is it now? It's controlled opposition. Why am I going to a liberal viewpoint of something I don't believe in?
The rest of his life that the supposed scientific authorities ignored him. He referred to his method as Scientism.
So the scientific authorities, right, but there's no such beast. Authorities, no. Science is a method for establishing cause and effect, not cause of concrete nouns like flat Earth. 123 people watching, almost the new peak. Let's hope we can get to 150. Please share the show. So grateful to all of you who've been sharing the show recently. Thank you very much. It's great to see the numbers getting up beyond 120.
After the Greek word sitio, to seek. By Scientism, he meant an extreme version of the philosophy of empiricism.
So, that's a negative thing, is it? The philosophy of empiricism is lived out and borne out in the scientific method today. It's helped advance humanity. It's not something we need to put trust in. It's something that once done offers empiricism.
What does she know about empiricism?
She doesn't. She doesn't understand how the scientific method works. Otherwise, she wouldn't suggest that you present a hypothesis, or that we do present hypotheses for a flat Earth, which is a concrete noun. She doesn't know what science is.
Philosophy, which is still the philosophy of flat earthers today.
Hang on, Nathan. I just looked it up. Scientism, if I said it right, is a system of scientific inquiry. The word is derived from the Greek verb zeteto, which means I seek, I examine, I strive for. A person who does it, it's a lot easier, is a person who practices Scientism. So we're seeking, we're looking, and we're using the scientific method. What's wrong with that?
Everything when they've hijacked it and used pseudoscience just so stories and called them science.
Is that if you want to understand nature, you should only rely on information from your own senses.
Okay, so I would slightly alter that and say that if you're dealing with cause and effect reasoning, that's science, then you need to first experience a phenomena in nature, because that's what science deals with, naturally occurring phenomena.
You can, for example, read on the website of the Flat Earth Society. The world looks flat, the bottoms of clouds are flat, the movement of the sun. These are all examples of your senses telling you that we do not live on a spherical heliocentric world.
Crap. What a crap example. Elevation angle measurements that people use to navigate the world are utilising a fact that Earth is flat. And the fact that Earth is flat enables people to navigate the Earth by way of elevation angle measurements which require Earth to be flat in order to perform them. That is why Earth is flat. There's a positive claim. The world looks flat. Yeah, okay, that's all right. Obviously flat. Yeah, observably flat. Yeah, it's not great, but it's all right. The bottoms of clouds are flat. Okay, this is the point that you should immediately disconnect from this website. Bottoms of clouds look flat. Yeah, this sentence is designed to make them look stupid, isn't it?
This is using what's called an empirical approach, or an approach that relies on information from...
No, it isn't. Describing clouds as looking flat isn't using an empirical approach. An empirical approach would be to establish if A causes B, the phenomena you're studying, or if A doesn't cause B, the phenomena you're studying, by varying A and seeing if it causes it. That's empirical. This crap from Flat Earth Society isn't that. Our standards are much higher.
From your senses. That flat earthers insist...
Can I comment?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay, so far, if we were to pause and say, what's going on here is, now, you have the right word. I don't think it's a straw man. I don't know if it's a red herring. It's one of those things where you set up your opponent. And the setup here is that the Flat Earth Society is our Vatican and our Pope. And we all belong to that. So it's easy to burn that thing, because that thing is their controlled opposition against us, saying things we don't even agree with. Well, how do we define this, where throughout the whole show, she's stereotyping everybody into this Flat Earth, Vatican, Pope leadership that none of us, even we argue with those people. What is that? This setup.
Yeah, it's stereotyping fallacy.
On evidence from your own senses only really is key to understanding that problem. I will come back to this. But first, let me tell you the rest of the history.
Why? We are talking about the nature of Earth. So what, we should look at the history of the Flat Earth Society? No! If we're looking at Narnia, and we're claiming Narnia is real, I don't want to know about the history of C.S. Lewis and his narration patterns through cinematography history. I want to see Narnia if you're claiming Narnia is real.
After Rowbotham's death in 1884, the flat earth idea was carried forward by another British guy, Samuel.
I don't know if you're all right with this 10th, but I'm gonna whiz past her little nonsense about the Flat Earth Society history.
Again, note the emphasis on personally collected evidence. In 1954,
oh God, how long does this go on?
I don't think there is solid proof. I'm not intentionally being stubborn about it, but 16, everything changed. What happened in 2016 is that a few devout flat community, still no one cared, but in 2016 everything changed. What happened in 2016 is that a few devout flat earthers put up videos here on YouTube.
Well, you haven't even got this history right. 2016? No. Far from it. So in 2010, Matt Powerland was on the circuit and putting up videos. In 2014, people were coming to the subject. And by 2015, there was tons of videos on the subject. So she doesn't even know the modern history within the last 10 years. That is an absolute joke. You don't even have to do much research to find out when the first flat earthers started to come on the scene here. And it wasn't 2016. Am I missing something?
Also, no, listen, there's a gap here. Also, she doesn't reference that American schools were teaching flat earth well into the 1920s, and we can prove that. Also, she doesn't explain that the internet and YouTube and all that and this new technology allowed people to share with the whole world what they really understand to be the earth. And all kinds of stuff is on YouTube, stuff that's true, stuff that's not true. And so this became the new medium by which we can reach everybody. I mean, we had a guy coming today who's listening from Australia. When did that happen? When you were licking a postage stamp? I mean, my goodness, we have now come into an age where I'm as powerful as CBS or NBC or BBC because I can broadcast to the whole world through this thing called the internet. And they said, oh my gosh, this thing we used and like to use to brainwash people, these people are using to inform people and showing proof. We need to call them archaic. We need an act of Congress. We need to shut them down. They don't like it when it goes against them, when they're using it to control and give you a paradigm that's not matching your reality. They only like it as long as they have control of it.
Yeah, because then now you
affect. I got books from the 18.
What happens is you affect their power.
Yeah, I got books in the 1800s.
There's a bit of a delay between you. It's okay. Go ahead, Tony.
Yeah, I got books from the 1800s saying flat Earth. I've done research shows everyone else. We've got people from all the centuries fighting against this globe. We've got Christian pastors writing and fighting against the globe because it's the opposite of the Genesis story. We've got people in the 1800s writing books against this globe heliocentric model. It's always been here. It's always been a fight, but we never had the medium to reach the world. Now we do. And then they say we're archaic when everything about their globe came from the flat earth angle measurement to Polaris. Unbelievable.
With that, I'll say if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, then this is where we bid you farewell. So a massive thank you to all of you. Smash the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, joined as a member, and all that good stuff. Of course, another massive thank you to today's Discord and G Plus panels for making today's live show possible. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on either Premiering stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!
Hey, Brian. Hey,
Nick's wife in Phuket.
Thank you for sending me that clip.
Oh, yeah. Listen, there's more where that came from. I have no doubt. But that's just handy. Just that little clip. It's a good after-show clip, maybe, or something.
Yeah, it's just,
why can't we hear it?
It's just the penny dropping. So what you've got is a whole load of people going through what flat is defined as. And then, like, you know, when there's a really awkward silence. And then, you know, Bev scrambling around to try and find antonyms that slightly disagree, and then a minor attempt to continue the gaslighting by going, well, if antonyms for parallel aren't conforming with horizontal, which is flat, then this kind of makes no sense, right? Long, stony silence. And then the guy called Papers pipes up and goes, yeah, but if there's mountains and valleys stuff, I don't like describing it as flat. You just had the definition in geometry on the screen and you all discussed it for 10 minutes, but you don't like it. Oh, well. Brilliant. Thank you. I don't normally watch when people send me those sorts of links, but I saw it twice, and then I saw that you'd specifically put at Nathan. I'm like, well, maybe there's something to this. It was 10 minutes before the show as well, so I'm like, if this takes longer than 10 minutes, I'm going to be late running the show. So I started watching it, and then as I started setting up, I'd already got what I needed to laugh my head off. Even my wife was listening and going, why are they also, you know, she was kind of, I can't remember what she said, but she's basically asking why they're shifting uncomfortably. I'm like, because they want to deny it's flat. That's why. And they are defining it and describing it and having a discussion about it being flat, and how that's relevant to the nature of Earth, and how it's referenced to Earth, and how it's in geometric terms. And they're like, yeah, I didn't realise it was an aspect. You're like, oh, God, this is great. At least you don't need that housekeeping question anymore.
Well, what's really good is that it was pointed out through what the sources they went to. Even though one of them was Wikipedia, the Wikipedia is based off of actual other sources that's linked below, if I remember correctly. But the whole point is that flat is not synonymous with just 2D shapes. Flat is also a way of describing 3D or describing land, let's just say, and other things within 3D reality. Flat is a description. You know, it's not. You can't hold. It's like to say, like it's stupid because he said himself last week when he had to, like, my whiteboard is flat, but it's not 2D. Yeah, but that doesn't mean you can't describe it as flat.
Yeah, the guy did it as well. The paper guy was like, he's going through his cognitive dissonance. I love it. Those moments really make me smile. It's terrible, really. I'm not a sadist, but it did make me smile because he's basically gone, look, okay, based on what we've just gone through, I understand it. I can describe a piece of glass or a table as flat, even though at a microscopic level, it's got undulations and it's not completely even. But I understand that can be described as flat. Short pause. But I don't like describing Earth as flat because it's got mountains and valleys and stuff. Like, oh, the cognitive dissonance. Yeah, hopefully, you'll realise where you've been gaslit and why this cognitive pain is now upon you. Or maybe you won't. Maybe Bev will salvage some of this. I don't think so.
Yeah, because what it is that flat is also a part of an aspect or part of the description of 3D solid shapes. You know, if you've got like a plateau, you can only describe it as flat, even though it might be part of a solid shape. Let's just say, you know, things like that, like this Bolivian salt flats. Are you telling me every part of that is 100% level and horizontal? No, but it can't be described with any other word in English but flat.
Right.
You know, it's terrible. But there is a point, and wait till the after show, we might do it, where it gets to a point where Bev is supposed to say something and he holds back from saying it. He literally doesn't read out something that he should read out.
Right.
Because, you know, this is the penny dropping for him.
We are in the after show.
Yeah, we're in the after show now.
We're talking about it now.
You might as well. I know. I'm just trying to say we haven't finished Sabine, so let's just put Sabine on hold and get on this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sabine on hold. I'm done with Sabine.
Well, how can we continue with Sabine with this hot, juicy topic right now, right here?
Give me a second. Nathan, if you go to Ball Busters, just above where I posted the video, I put a timestamp there. If you play that timestamp, you'll hear what I'm talking about. This is the point when Bev reads out something that makes him go, "Oh no!" I think it's 17 minutes something or something like that.
I want to hear that.
Yeah. So what I've listened to is it happened to just load it up at the point that I left off, which is 28 minutes, just under. Normally puts you back about 10 seconds from where you've watched. So I watched a good. If it was 17 minutes, I think you said it was 17:40 in the timestamp, correct?
I'll have to check that now, but I think it's something like that. But at that exact time, that's a timestamp for an exact moment that should be heard.
Look at this. You know, they like to put number in there as a.
Go back a little bit, Nathan. Go back about 10 seconds.
Yeah, just bear with me. I've got people joining and stuff.
Mathematics and geometry of a surface. Geometry. Flat geometry, the generalization of lines and planes in a dimensional Euclidean space. Flatness, brackets mathematics of a surface.
You know.
There it is.
Leave it play a second.
What dimensional space?
Look at this. You know, they like to put number in there as a
nth dimension in the citation.
There we go.
Yeah.
Right. Just
what he's not. Yeah. What he was asked out by Rob Keane. A what dimension or a what? And he said he done the same thing again.
Mathematics and geometry of a surface.
For me, this is strange because of a surface, it means of a surface of solid object. So in reality.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we all know what a surface is.
So why it is in mathematics?
Because you're calculating and measuring stuff. Who is this guy? This paper guy? It's like a drongo.
No, you know what it is about paper? Paper is actually probably the best over there, I reckon. He's actually a good guy. He tries to get things correct and he tries to represent people, including us, correctly. He's hanging in somewhere where he's not getting the information that would allow him to do that. That's what's wrong there. He's hanging in over there, and so he only has sketchy information about, let's just say, celestial navigation and stuff like that. But he does try to represent it as best he can. So he's not a dishonest guy. He's actually a good guy, but you're not going to get the information on anything other than some basic stuff over Bevs, and that's the problem. So he's been under the impression that flat is synonymous with two dimensions, and for maybe, I don't know, a year or something, whatever it is, that Bev has been attacking people on the term flat, but Bev never looked up the term flat. There's something coming up in a few minutes as well where it kind of throws him for a loop again as well.
I want to play this bit from that guy then.
Nobody will argue that my table is not flat because we have some molecular ondulants or whatever.
Undulations.
So, but for description of something that this is obviously not flat, visually not flat, it would be a misnomer. This is.
So he's saying, I understand, he actually said prior, I just went a bit too far forward, that a piece of glass or a table can be described as flat, even though it's got microscopic undulations. But I think it's a misnomer to describe the surface of Earth as flat because of mountains and valleys. Okay, so by scale, even though the undulations in a piece of glass are more pronounced than the mountains and valleys by scale if you use all of the land we know of, you still find it a misnomer to say Earth is flat. Yeah, cognitive dissonance based on Bev's gaslighting. Glad I found it so quickly. I don't think there's any other juicy bits in that. We could listen to it forever, but it's boring.
There is. Well, I can tell you about it. It gets to the point where Bev realizes that flat is synonymous with horizontal, and he tries to. This is kind of like a bit later on where he tries to salvage something by saying, well, flat then would be an orientation, and you couldn't describe the Earth as an orientation. But no, it's synonymous with horizontal, but flat can be like a wall can be described as flat, a slope can be described as flat, but its most base description would be horizontal because that's the horizon, right? But it's a derivative of horizontal or a way of describing horizontal. So you can't call it flat an orientation. It's still not horizontal is an orientation. Flat is not an orientation. So Bev tried to salvage something with that, and he still tried. Still a bit later on, he tries to say, "Well, I can prove it's not flat." You know what I mean? Going back to the hills and valleys and stuff. But yeah, not at this stage. You have to reading out to your audience the actual description of or the actual definition of flat in geometry and mathematics, and it's not just synonymous with 2D, and it's a way of describing what we describe as flat. You know what I mean? Maybe it's an absolute horizontal, or maybe it's a solid flats.
Check this one as well. This isn't the one that I saw. Arts and entertainment. It says flat brackets soldier. I'm not really understanding of this. It says
to give his cognitively dissonance affected panel an out, he starts listing off non-connected descriptions of flat. Oh, your singing's a bit flat. So he throws in some new definitions. And I think Rob Keane from the panel who's been here and is actually one of the supporters of the show, said, yeah, there's so many definitions. By the time we get to the 20th one, I don't accept that it's reasonable to use it as a definition. It's so convoluted. You're like, what? Because you've got different uses of this word, you won't accept that even though it's been defined by Bev geometrically, you can't accept it geometrically. Like, wow, this is quite incredible. I can't believe how well programmed Bev's got them all. That's quite amazing.
Yeah, he's a strict one, Bev. He's a strict one.
Well,
just
I don't
one
know.
second, Brian.
Just
one sec. I want to play out the bit that he actually does read out the geometric terminology because he brings it up.
You know, they like to put number in there as a There we go. Mathematics and geometry of a surface.
For me, this is strange because of a surface, it means of a surface of solid object. So in reality, so why it is in mathematics? I don't understand that.
Geometry is in mathematics. I'm putting the further in the link.
Does he read it earlier? I'm going to give up in a minute if I can't find it.
This one is this isn't the one
I
that I
to tell you, I think that's read
Arts and entertainment.
Later than that
Say
point.
again.
It's read out a bit later than that point where he goes.
I'm not really understand.
Go ahead.
It's read out. I know what you're talking about. I don't think that's Rob Keane. I think it's someone else that's on the panel that reads it out. That talks about how there's they saw 17 different synonyms or something for flat. That's a bit later on. I think it's around. I'd have to look in Skype. I think it's around 20 something minutes. But give me a moment.
Sorry, paper. Go ahead.
No, go on.
I was just going to ask, is that what was that again in Wiki that you looked up, Bev?
Flat.
Flat. Yeah, I looked it up as well, and I think they had like I can't remember if it was Merriam-Webster. Somebody can look it up. They had like 19 or 20 different definitions.
Yeah.
I mean, if you could pick a more nebulous word to use to describe your deity, I call it a deity, Big E. We call it Big E. Some people call it Big E. Right? If you could find a more nebulous word, I'd challenge you to find a more nebulous word. 20 definitions?
I'll find one.
It's just strange.
You've got the 100 and something synonyms. And the top 4.
Yeah.
Listen to these for
So you're saying that it's nebulous, so nebulous. In the form of a cloud or haze, hazy, another term for nebula.
Nathan.
Of a concept, vague or ill-defined. So in finding the definitions, you feel that it's ill-defined, nebulous. No, it wasn't, Rob, you were right.
synonyms for flat. Empty.
Nathan.
Yeah.
Nathan, I'm looking, this is so comedic and so, it's even below kindergarten. I'm looking at the word ball, B-A-L-L. Noun, a formal gathering for social dancing. Noun, informal, an extremely enjoyable time or experience. Noun, a spherical object or entity. Noun, a spherical body. Noun, any various movable round or orbiting objects, like what athletes in games. Noun, object moving, thrown, hit, or kicked in a particular manner. Noun, a game, baseball, basketball, played with such an object. A pitch baseball, a solid spherical pointed projectile. On and on. Courage, even references a male testicle. To form into a ball. I mean, how many words do we have for ball that my context would clarify which one I mean?
So after I use
I say kick that ball,
my,
I'm not saying kick my friend's testicle.
After I used my exercise ball, I did a bit of heliocentric research about the ball before going to the ball and hurting one of my balls. So, because all of those different words were used in different contexts, does that make it nebulous? No. I'm using an exercise item, a ball. Then I'm going to a dance, a ball. And then I'm hurting part of my anatomy, a ball. My point is,
a ball at the ball, too.
My point is, this isn't nebulous, as the guy was suggesting, because he's looking for an out to curtail his cognitive dissonance in this regard. So, as an out, he's saying, well, there's loads of definitions, therefore I don't have to accept that the Earth is flat. I'm going to say it again for anybody who's watching that's one of Bev's cognitively dissonance-afflicted panel members. Earth's flat. It's time to suck it up.
You missed that one.
Flat.
The guy said
Go Adam, and I go
horizontal. Low.
Could I say something? If Adam
unbroken.
Well, I was just waiting.
Go on, Adam.
It's not that the word itself is nebulous, because as you've demonstrated there, it's not nebulous. It's very well defined. As we mentioned before, there is a lexical issue, which is what Bev's been doing, providing a lexical fallacy in the initial stages. But this is the English language, and there are many words that have dual purpose, specific meanings when used in specific contexts. And unfortunately, unless you're retarded or don't have the comprehension of the English language, you should be able to use the word flat in its different contexts in different ways in the sentence to imply that the ball is flat, it's a flat ball, as opposed to like a flat football. We can use that meaning there. If you can't cope with that, and you're going to abandon a word that has very well-defined meanings, under the premise stated there that just it's nebulous and therefore I couldn't figure it out, Really, the only indictment there is the person that's unable to navigate through the world using the word flat correctly.
Go on, Brian.
What I was going to say about it, Ron, the first thing that I picked up on when I heard that, and that's why I commented on that particular point, and I left the timestamp in Ballbusters last night, was to say that it's nebulous means that it's not held down to any one particular thing. So they can't hold people down to anything when they start saying you can't say it's flat, because it's such a it describes so many things, and let's just say it describes everything and nothing at the same time. It's not a shape, it's not claiming a shape, but it's describing an aspect. You know, it's also synonymous with horizontal, but yet it's not an orientation. You know, these kind of things. It's like they've been trying to hold people down to a strict definition that it doesn't have. And that guy saying, I can't remember who it is, but I know the voice, saying it's nebulous, means that you can't hold people down to anything, can you? You know, it means that you can never go forward from this point and start attacking people on saying the earth is flat, because you, through your own words, you've admitted that it's nebulous, which means it doesn't have any clear, there's no one definition for it. It's a description of many things.
Don't buy into his attempts to overcome his own cognitive dissonance, Brian. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to say, okay, well, by your standards, you can't define anything because it's all nebulous. No, it's not nebulous. It's well defined, in context. We know what we're talking about when we say Earth's flat. We just say it and mean it because we know it. We know what the word means. We know how it's contextually defined. We know how it's applied to Earth. These people don't, and they've been told that they don't need to or don't require to by way of a lexical fallacy. Now they're digging into this lexicon and finding out how wrong they are, and that's causing them cognitive pain. Yeah? Right, okay. Well, I've got a bit of sympathy for you, you empathic lot. Yeah, you've been gaslit.
I think that you're taking me up a little bit wrong.
I just looked up the word nebulous.
Just 1 second, Hank. Sorry, just 1 second. I think it took me up a little bit wrong. I'm not buying into their nonsense. It's that when that lad said, could you find a more nebulous word? It's like, so you can't hold people to anything then. That was my point. If you're even trying to say it's nebulous, then you can't hold people to anything. You can't hold people to a two-dimensional geometric standard.
I see what you mean. It's back to the definitions of words are meaningless. So what you're saying is, if you're going to say when we well define something in context that it's ill-defined, then you're essentially saying that we can't win. If we show you wrong by way of the Socratic method, you will turn around and tell us that it's nebulous. So piss off, out of the argument, you are useless to us.
Yeah, because even at one point, Bev says something like, just words, something like that within 20-something minutes. I think it's like 22 minutes in. They're just words or something like that. He comes out with something like that.
They're the top four.
Yes, but words have meanings.
Synonyms for flat.
Because for me, it is highly contextualized. So you may exchange with other words in context. But for me, flat Earth, meaning that the surface of the Earth is flat, it doesn't match that.
Pure cognitive dissonance. So he can understand how a table or piece of glass can have microscopic undulations. Now let's say we take the Earth and put it to the scale of a table. Then by comparison, the table that's made of a scale Earth would be perfectly smooth, whereas the table would have a little bit of roughness to it. So it'd be more smooth by scale. But he's saying, I don't like that. Even though I understand and have just described how these words have meaning in context, and the context is Earth being flat. Like a table is flat. Or a pane of glass is flat. Yeah, and when we're contextualizing it with a horizontal orientation or the elevation of the land in reference to a 0 degree flat baseline, that's a flat Earth. You don't like that in context because you've got hills and mountains, but yet you can understand how a table's got microscopic undulations if you could say it. Yeah, that's called, look it up, it's another word that you might have to look up in a dictionary. Cognitive dissonance. Actually, 2 words.
Description.
That's
It's
what,
not
that's
good.
what's troubling about it.
Yeah. Yeah, when you get brainwashed and gaslit and someone points out how wrong it is, and you're desperately keen to defend your guru, you will find yourself arguing against your own understanding. That's cognitive dissonance.
Good. Because if in mathematics...
Nathan, I just need to do it again. I looked up the word nebulous, and here are the synonyms for nebulous. And let's have a context this time. So you're at the lumber store trying to get a 2x4, a straight 2x4, horizontal, not bendy 2x4. Here's synonym. That 2x4 looks cryptic. Nah, that 2x4 looks deep. Nah, that 2x4 looks murky. That 2x4 is mystic. That 2x4 is inscrutable. Maybe that 2x4 is obscure or opaque. The guy would say, what the heck are you talking about? You want something horizontal as flat and straight, right? That's nebulous. My goodness, they can't even use the word right.
Is Bev suggesting that level has undulations?
No, he's saying that when you contextualize flat for the Earth, you're ignoring the fact that there's valleys and mountains, therefore it's not reasonable. The other guy is saying there's loads of definitions for flat, therefore all of them are ill-defined, nebulous.
Hold on. No, but level, does that have undulations in it?
No.
Then he's lost. It's not if level isn't undulating, then he's lost.
I don't understand.
Well, if Earth's not flat because it has undulations, sea level's not flat because it has undulations, so it's not level. So there is no sea level.
Right.
What's he been arguing for?
I gotcha. It's denying a fundamental premise. Same goes for when he talks about, what about hills and mountains? What about them? You're talking about the increase in elevation with reference to the flat baseline. How high the mountain is compared to 0. I trimmed out you saying this, actually, John. It was you that put so fine a point on it on the end of one of my trimmed out videos. I don't know if you saw that. You were like, it's sad. They're confusing topology with the baseline reference the height of the topology is measured from.
Yeah, but they're talking about what is above or below surface level.
Hold on 1 second, Jorge. Go ahead, John.
If you turn it the other way, then it destroys his argument, because is he going to suggest level has undulations, therefore it's not horizontal?
Right. I see where you're going. Yeah, we're describing it as an overall aspect, as an overall description of the land as a reference for the heights, for example. And he's just saying, no, it's got topology. Makes no difference. Who cares? You're describing your level line that you draw out when you do any surveying. Well, unless you're suggesting that when you draw out your level line, that can have undulations, then you're destroying your own point.
Yeah, they don't think that far ahead. They just say things just so it doesn't have to be flat.
Yeah, these are lost souls that haven't got the balls to admit what they are. What have you got? A flat geometry. This is what they were presenting, right, Brian?
Yeah, I just read it out quickly. Flat geometry, it's from Wikipedia. In geometry, a flat or Euclidean subspace is a subset of a Euclidean space that is itself a Euclidean space or of lower dimension. The flats in 2-dimensional space are points and lines, right? That would be a horizontal. And the flats in three-dimensional space are points, lines, and planes. Now, I have audio from Bev saying a flat plane does not exist in reality. So that would mean that the horizon doesn't exist, because he also states that all horizontals are parallel to the plane of the horizon. The horizon flat is synonymous with horizontal. Horizontal is synonymous with horizon. You know, he's killing himself from every direction because he keeps attacking the word flat and trying to attack people with it. So he's killing his own credibility with that.
Yeah, it's because he's dug out a niche, right? He's found a load of people that don't want to admit it's flat. And they've wanted a guru to follow that leaves them in a nice position to not have to admit it's flat with all the whys and wherefores, otherwise known as a lexical fallacy, to justify their own, in their mind at the time, true belief that it isn't flat. And how they can bandy words around with anybody who says they're a flat earther. Oh, because no, we're not. Oh, most definitely not. Check out my guru, he says he isn't. And we laugh at flat earthers like you do. We're one of you, really. Let us back into society, please. You bunch of pathetic wankers. Don't like me talking down to you. Yeah, you're too dumb to be here. Stay at Bev's. I was talking to the people who haven't already figured this out, because a lot of them have.
Nathan, you hit it right in the head, because they're so welcomed with Bob Nodell. They're in cahoots together. They're accepted. They're accepted by Blue Marble Science and all the other guys.
Well, they're not, don't they? They're not, because none of the ballers accept them as being not flat earthers. The ballers definitely don't accept that they're not flat earthers. They'll never not be flat earthers. They just don't want to admit it. And they try to attack people on the word flat without ever actually looking at the definition in geometry. Yet geometry, Euclidean geometry is their main thing.
That's a good point. Sorry to cut you off, Brian. That's a fantastic point to tie in why we've just looked at what we've looked at from Bev's channel. They're only just going through the definition. They've been making claims about it forever, but yet they're only just looking up the definition and discussing it together. Oh my God. At the arrogance level, the pure ignorance level is off the scale. Yeah, this point, like I say, we've gone through a few shows, point out Bev's contradictions. Those of you took too long to get it from this is the cut-off point. Now you can just sod off. You are too dumb to be here. I'm going to start getting elitist about it because this is the line being drawn. You're still going, what? So we can describe Earth as flat, we measure it as flat, we navigate it as flat, but me saying not flat because of mountains and valleys is a crap way of being. Yeah, that's right. If you haven't figured it out at this point, you are too dumb to be part of this discussion. Here, go away and discuss it in other forums away from me. Even dream about flat shaming me, because this is where it ends up, right? With a whole panel of lost souls all in cognitive dissonance, looking at their guru, describing antonyms to try and work out how flat, in musical definitions, somehow doesn't make Earth flat. Because that's what he's been telling you. To give you some comfort. Yeah, well, I've just taken it away from you. You can hate me for it, or you can just grow a pair of bloody balls and realise what you are. Earth's flat, start sucking it up and dealing with it.
I have to agree, Nathan. Sorry. Go on, John.
I was just going to say, they need to realize, too, that the ballers are flat earthers, too. They just don't realize it as well. They'll be fine.
Yeah, take some solace. That's something we can offer you. As I've been a bit negative and a bit talking down and elitist to the people who haven't picked the penny up that's dropped from any others so far, then fine, let's be a bit more positive. There are many things, once you appreciate how Earth is flat, that you can take that to the ballers, if that's what you're interested in. It seems that a lot of Bev's panel are keen to regale us with the wonderful victories that they've had over on their server that don't seem to be trimmed out in numpty clips. But there we go. You can use the information you understand to point out how a baller's model has been derived from a flat plane. How the elevation angle measurements to Polaris give them their latitude lines. how they can only derive their model if Earth is measured flat. You can take that to them and tell them how they're flat earthers.
I need to comment there. We've all heard Bev say the word perpendicular. We've all heard him say to have a vertical, you need a horizontal, and that establishes your perpendicular. So if you were to take two pieces of lumber or something else and establish one horizontal, put one vertical, he would have a 90-degree angle, and he would say, yeah, that's what I mean. That's perpendicular, the horizontal meeting a vertical. Great. Did you know that the pieces of lumber in a microscopic level have undulations? Now what do you call it?
Nebulous.
This is the real killer. Sorry, Nathan.
Go on, Brian.
Yeah, this is the real killer here that I have on screen. Hyperplane. In geometry, a hyperplane is a subspace whose dimension is one less than that of its ambient space. For example, if a space is three-dimensional, then its hyperplanes are the two-dimensional planes, while if the space is two-dimensional, its hyperplanes are one-dimensional lines, right? This means that we can have flat planes, or basically, we live in a three-dimensional world, but that doesn't mean we don't have, or it can't be described as flat. Or we can't say that Bolivian salt flats are flat, things like that. Do you know what I mean? This is like a hyperplane. I've never heard that being spoken about over on Bevs ever. It means
we've never talked about it. It's the first time I've heard this term.
Yeah, but it means reality is reality. It means you can't not address the table as being anything but flat, or your kitchen floor as being anything but flat. How are you going to describe it without that word? You're not going to, yeah, you might not be able to call it horizontal because it may not be 100% level, right? There might be one side is lower than the other, but that doesn't mean you can't describe it as flat. You know what I mean? Your kitchen floor will have little undulations, but you can't describe it as that unless it's flat. Same as a piece of paper. You know,
what I'm saying, I've put this bookshelf up, got it completely level. I've got it matched. It's running parallel with the plane of the horizon. And you look, the person being told, at the bookshelf and go, yeah, but it's got books all over it. How can you say it's flat? Well, no, but the books are all, stacked up. Their bottom edge is in reference to the flat shelf. It's level. The shelf's been leveled. It's flat. But the books are at different heights. That's what we've got as an argument from these numpties. That's their position.
That is a great illustration, Nathan. That's got to be the best illustration I heard yet. That's what they're doing.
And how would you conclude that the books have different heights?
Look, it's a misnomer to say this shelf's level or flat. It's got books on it, man. What'd you say? But the shelf's flat. It's been levelled. Look, man, flat's got a lot of definitions. It's completely nebulous.
That's really good.
Yeah, but
I mean, how come he's not saying this? That's what they're saying. Because of the mountains, because of the books, the Earth is not flat.
Yeah, but he's talking about the ground above or below
There's something
sea
else
level.
going on.
The sea level is what he's ignoring.
Yeah, the heights are referenced to level.
There's something else going on.
Content.
Yeah, there's something else going on here. Because it's obviously they're tripping over themselves now once they look for a definition. When a person has a wrong premise, and I've seen this on job sites, where someone without the experience is saying, we need to do this, this, and this in this order. And the more experienced journeymen, tradesmen say, well, that's backwards. Because if you do this, then I got to come back and undo it for this guy to do his job because he can't do his job if I do this. There's got to be an order to this. but he ain't running the show. And he can't say anything because then he'll get fired because this guy's got an ego and he's the foreman. Everyone follow me so far?
Yeah.
Yes?
Yeah.
Okay, so here we go. That person, that foreman, wants to control behavior, wants to control the flow of information, wants to control the flow of thoughts, and control emotional content of his workers. What did I just describe?
Bev?
This is the point. It's Bev's inability to make, and I like Bev, so this is not personal. It's his inability to come to terms with this, especially when he goes to the terms and it's opposite of what he's been saying. And then he's got an entourage following him. But if someone took the time to break it down, look, I know you mean well and all, but shouldn't this guy do his trade first and then me? No one's doing that over there.
Right. Like I say, I draw a line at this point.
I worked for some of them foremen, and they're not pleasant to work for.
Well, I listened to some of Bev's from Monday as well, from his Monday stream. He had a huge stream on Monday. It was 8 hours long, and I'd say about half of it was based around the Ball Busters show on Saturday night. And he had to admit, like when he heard me saying on Ball Busters that a water level does not prove that, I said that Bev said that a water level proves that level is horizontal, and he came out and said on his show on Monday, I've never said that a water level proves that level is horizontal. And then he tried to add in some other stuff as if that was some proof.
What?
Like a line, yeah. This is what he said. And it's like all these people were attacking me for saying that a water level doesn't prove that level is horizontal. And now here is Bev having to admit it on Monday night, or come out and say that he never said it. Now, I'm pretty sure I heard him say it, but even if he didn't, it doesn't matter. The point is that he's admitting that the water level does not prove level is horizontal. But he didn't say that. That's a misrepresentation of what he said. What he said was that he never claimed that it did. That's what he said. Now, why would all the people who follow him be wanting to argue with me for a couple of days on YouTube about how water level proves that level is horizontal? And the person that is leading them is claiming that he's never even claimed that. You know, it's like, it's looking bad.
This is one of, wait a minute. What do they use water levels for again?
Well, they can't use them to establish. They can't establish a horizontal plane of reference because level has undulations in it. So there's no such thing as horizontal.
Just for clarity, no, it does not.
No, John is
okay, but what do they use a water level for? And what's
yeah. Give me a second. They use the water level, right, is a tool that establishes a horizontal plane of reference. But you can't prove that level is horizontal with just the water level, because your water level is not an optical tool, so you can't. There's no way of checking it. You must pre-assume your outcome. So if you're a globe believer, you can pre-assume that it's being level with the center of your globe. If you don't believe in a globe, you can pre-assume that its level is horizontal. But you can't prove that level is horizontal with just a water level. That's not the point. You're missing the point.
Fluid at rest. Well, hang on. There's other points to points. Fluid at rest is used in the artificial horizon with the sextant when you have that pan with mercury and all sides covered and top so that the wind doesn't agitate it. Fluid at rest is used for angle measurements.
Yes, but that's not a water level. That's more than a water level, which is my point. So my point was that
no. You can use.
You're missing the point, I think.
The water level
you can
is used
use
across great distances. The level we're using there is thingy. Brian's point is It's not self-validated in of itself. You have to support that and prove in another way, whether that's with a artificial horizon or whatever. But is as of it stands, without further support, you can only proceed with an assumption of use, not have proof of that individual thing as it sits on its own.
But he's right.
I'm about to go there. I'm about to go there. So why do you rock the sextant to get the pendulum motion? And when do you say mark?
At vertical.
Thank you. And according to Bev, vertical meeting horizontal is 90 degrees. Perpendicular. How can you have perpendicular if you're using water and rocking the sextant to find the vertical position of the sun so that you know the sun's zenith, so that you can do a two-step method and subtract from your zenith to get the zenith angle distance?
Yeah,
it's over.
It's over.
With those things.
And that's actually where I'm going to round out. So with that, I'm going to say another massive, huge, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams. Hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.